You know that feeling when you want to really get something?
Hmm.
Like, go deeper than just the surface.
Hmm.
That's what we do here. And today, we're taking a deep dive into Ninja Volume 1, Spirit of the Shadow Warrior by Stephen K. Hayes.
Right. And forget the movie stuff, really.
Exactly. This book, it had graphic design by Walter Rickel, edited by Bill Griffith. Copyright was 1980, O'Hara Publications. This is the 8th printing we have from 84. And it's full of some really interesting ideas.
Yeah, and what really jumps out right away is what Hayes actually says in the preface, his goal.
Which is it?
To explore the parts of ninjutsu people often miss. You know, the non-physical stuff. It's way more than just like flips and fighting.
Totally. So our mission today, cut through the myths, the popular fiction, and really get to the core of what Hayes presents.
And the scope is pretty wide, just looking at the contents.
Yeah, we've got historical perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
then the building blocks of the universe, how we fit in, then fighting, obviously, then this really interesting bit on the sixth center, the brain as a tool of the spirit, then active meditation, extended realities, and finally, the art of understanding ourselves and others.
It's quite the journey he lays out, and the dedication, that's quite telling too, isn't it?
It really is. To Rumiko Duncan, Paula, Catherine, Bunny, and his Tokyo family.
You for helping him see that the ninja's heart was intended to be a palace and not a fortress?
Yeah, that hints at something much deeper, doesn't it? A
Yeah.
philosophy.
Definitely. And he's very grateful to his teacher, Dr. Masaki Hatsumi.
The 34th Grandmaster of the Togakure-ryu tradition.
Right. And Hayes makes the point that the art isn't just about combat. It enhances love, wonder, control, understanding, even power.
Which connects right back to that preface.
Exactly. He spent, what, 8 years studying Oriental fighting arts?
Yeah, and ended up being the first non-Japanese person ever to get the title Shidoshi in that tradition.
Which is a big deal. Teacher of the warrior ways of enlightenment. So he felt he needed to share these, well, less obvious, maybe more important aspects.
Okay, so let's dive in, starting with those historical perspectives. Because, honestly, most people hear ninja, they think.
Vanishing smoke bombs, superhuman powers, right?
Pretty much, the whole mythical figure thing.
And that's the first myth the book kind of tackles. It explains ninjutsu actually started as a specialized military thing.
Developed by who?
Mountain mystics, basically, in the Iga and Koga regions of Japan. It wasn't magic, it was this really practical mix of skills.
Right. Hayes lists it out. Physical skills, sure, but also a calm, enlightened mind, he calls it. Free-working spiritual powers, which sounds like intuition, maybe? Mental focus, plus intelligence gathering, psych warfare, even occult stuff.
It's a pretty potent mix. And the roots, they go back even further.
To China and Tibet, right.
Yeah, exactly. Tang, China, and Tibet, with those tantric traditions. Ancient wisdom, really, focusing on understanding nature, the universe, your place in it.
So the goal wasn't just fighting?
Not originally, no. It was more about personal enlightenment, living in harmony with nature, that kind of thing.
So when did the fighting part become so central?
Well, the book suggests it developed out of a need for self-protection. Dangerous times. The established state religions didn't always cut it for defense, so these mountain groups developed their own ways.
Okay, and then things heated up historically.
Right. Periods of more intense warfare meant more demand for these, ninja agents.
And they needed people trained fast.
Yeah, trained quickly in specific combat skills. And their whole approach leaned heavily on deception, messing with the enemy's senses.
Makes sense. But what drove them? The book mentioned something quite human.
It does. It wasn't just about war for war's sake. It was love, essentially, protecting their families.
That deep commitment.
Exactly. That fueled their determination, which, could be pretty ruthless when needed.
It's a good reminder, isn't it? Even behind the secrecy, real motivations. Okay, so the training itself. The book lists the main areas. It's quite a list.
It really is comprehensive. You've got Heiho, that's combat strategy.
Yep.
Fujutsu, the general warrior arts. Ki-ai, which is more than a shout. It's about personal harmony, focused energy.
Right, I've heard that term.
Taijutsu, that's body skills, unarmed combat, movement. Kenjutsu, the sword. Yarijutsu, spear. Kayaku jutsu.
Fire and explosives.
Yep. Shuriken jutsu, throwing blades. Yuge, traditional arts like music or calligraphy.
Yeah.
And Kyoman, practical education.
Wow. It's not just fighting, is it? It's like total competency.
Exactly. It's holistic.
Right.
And that leads to a key difference the book highlights between the ninja philosophy and the samurai.
Oh, so?
Well, the samurai had these very rigid codes of honor, right?
Bushido, yeah.
Whereas the ninja, according to Hayes, had this much more interconnected worldview. There's a great line.
What is it?
That the ninja felt they were not big enough to view the entire universe, yet everything seems important.
Huh. That's interesting, seeing the connections, the details mattering within the big picture.
Precisely. And they weren't just lone wolves either. There was structure.
Right, the hierarchy.
Yeah. Jonin at the top, the commanders, then Shunin, the middle managers running ops, and the Genin, the field agents.
And secrecy was key.
Paramount, given what they did. And that training, for the Genin anyway, often started super young.
Like disguised as games.
Yeah, exactly. Physical conditioning, basic combat, spying skills, mental discipline, preparing them for that life.
And the outfit. We got to mention the classic ninja suit.
Yeah. The book describes the traditional gear. Dark blue or gray, usually. Close-fitting, practical.
Trousers, sleeves.
Split-toed socks for grip, the hood and mask, that long scarf for concealment. Hidden pockets, too, for weapons or maybe some light armor.
But Hayes makes a point about modern times, right?
It does.
Yeah.
He says the specific outfit isn't the main thing anymore. The real core of ninjutsu is that mind-body harmony. That's the source of the skill.
Okay, let's shift gears. Chapter 2. Building blocks of the universe. This feels a bit more abstract. Starts with ki.
Yeah, but ki here is more than just the martial arts shout. It's about developing this awareness of totality.
Totality.
Like the whole picture, aligning yourself with the scheme of totality, as he puts it. It's fundamental to understanding yourself and the world.
And this connects to the 5 elements, which come from Tibetan Tantra.
That's the lineage presented, yeah. You have ku, which is emptiness, sort of subatomic potential.
Okay.
Then fu, wind or gas. Ka, fire, energy releasing. Sui, water, fluid. And chi, earth, the solid state.
So like from potential energy to solid matter.
Pretty much. The book frames the universe's creation like that, unfolding from ku to chi. And the kicker is,
What?
the human body is seen as a mini version of that same process, a microcosm.
Ah, okay. So how does a ninja actually use that, practically speaking?
It's a framework, a way to understand the world and themselves. Chi, earth, connects to our physical side, being grounded.
Makes sense.
Sui, water, relates to emotions, being adaptable. Ka, fire, is our drive, intenser. Fu, wind, links to intellect, compassion. And ku, emptiness.
The potential again.
Exactly. Creative potential, consciousness itself. It's a way to map things out.
And the book gives those 10 examples, right? How these elements show up in everyday life.
Yeah, like how you'd react to different situations based on which element is sort of dominant in your outlook at that moment.
Like dealing with a drunk person or winning the lottery or getting stuck in traffic.
Exactly. It shows how these underlying energies can shape our responses. An earth reaction to winning money might be paying off the mortgage,
Solid, practical.
while a fire reaction might be buy a sports car immediately.
Right. And ku, the emptiness or source level, what's its style?
Well, the book says it doesn't have a characteristic style. It's just pure potential, the creative source from which the others flow.
Okay, let's talk fighting. Chapter 3. It's central to the ninja image. The book calls it a total system. What's that mean?
It means it's not just one thing, not just fists or just swords. It integrates everything.
Sticks, fists, blades, throws.
Yeah, all that, but also, crucially, the mental outlook, the combat consciousness. It's a whole package for dealing with danger.
And those 5 elements we just talked about, they apply to fighting too.
They do. Each element maps to a tactical approach. Earth is about holding your ground, being solid, using strength.
Stable.
Water is flexibility, flowing movement, doing the unexpected.
Fluid.
Fire is fierce resolve, intense drive, maybe overwhelming the opponent.
Aggressive.
Wind is more defensive, creating space, being elusive.
Evasive.
And emptiness, that's using creativity, not just physical power, thinking differently under pressure.
That's a really neat way to connect philosophy and action. The book also covers the 5 basic fighting postures, the kame.
Right, and they're described as physical reflections of your mental state.
So she's a no kame.
Natural posture, earth element, balanced, stable, ready to defend.
Ichimonji no kame.
Figure L stance, water, for evading surprise moves, attacking off balance.
Jumonji no kame.
Charging stance, fire, direct, aggressive attacks.
No kame.
Relaxed, flat posture, wind. Looks non-threatening, adaptable, maybe for de-escalation or less hostile situations.
And Bobby or Mushin no kame.
No form, emptiness, unpredictable, drawing on inner resources, not telegraphing intent.
So each stance is a whole mindset, and then there are the actual techniques, taijutsu.
Yep, 5 broad types. Dekken taijutsu striking,
Fists, feet.
kosijutsu attacking bones, pressure points, jutaijutsu throws, locks, grappling,
Okay.
sojutsu using weapons skillfully, and intojutsu concealment and escape methods.
Again, super comprehensive. All right, let's get into the sixth center. Sounds mysterious.
It does, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's presented as basically the mind, a center of consciousness.
Located where?
Middle of the head, sort of between and just above the eyes. In ninjutsu, the mind is the bridge, the link between pure consciousness and the body.
So it's about using your brain power.
It's maybe deeper than that. It connects to this idea that everything in the universe is vibration.
Like energy, different frequencies.
Exactly. From solid stuff right through to thoughts, it's all vibrations, wavelengths.
And we only perceive a little bit of that normally.
Right. Our senses have a limited range. Technology extends it, obviously. But the idea here is that ninja train to harmonize with more of these vibrations.
To affect their surroundings.
So on a subtle level, yeah, that's the concept.
How do you train for that?
It comes down to awareness. Stripping away the mental clutter, the emotional noise.
Getting clear.
So you can perceive and interact with these outside forces more directly. The book talks about unconscious awareness getting beyond just logic, tapping into intuition.
And there are exercises for this, tied to the elements again.
Yes. The first 5 focus on heightening the senses. Earth is linked to smell.
Water to taste.
Fire to sight, wind to touch, and source or emptiness to hearing. The exercises involve really focusing on and exploring each sense. So it connects the physical sense to the idea of the element.
Got it. And then exercises 6 to 9.
Those involve controlled breathing techniques combined with visualizing the elements.
Like earth breathing for grounding.
Exactly. Water for flexibility, fire for energy, wind for freedom. Connecting breath, mind, and the elemental quality.
Yeah, the Gujin. Hand seals.
They're presented as a way to control attitude and direct energy, like physical anchors for mental states.
And the thumb represents ku, emptiness.
Yeah, and the fingers, the other 4 elements. Again, that theme of interconnection.
So what's the ultimate point of mastering this 6th center?
Understanding the mind is key. The book really stresses detachment, observing what's happening, especially with an opponent, without getting sucked into emotional reactions.
You can respond clearly, effectively.
Precisely. That ability to observe without reacting emotionally, that's huge. Not just in combat, but, in life generally.
Definitely something most of us could work on. Okay, active meditation. Sounds like a contradiction.
It does, but the book explains Zen meditation in ninjutsu isn't about zoning out or escaping.
It's not.
No, it's about intensifying awareness to become totally effective in action, sharpening the mind for activity.
Okay, interesting twist. And there are exercises.
Yeah. Exercise 1. Simple meditation covers the basics. Posture, straight spine, chin tucked, eyes lightly closed or soft focus. Natural breathing.
And the goal?
Become the observer. Just notice thoughts, sensations, without judgment, without getting lost in them.
Like stepping back internally.
Exactly. Then exercise 2. Training the observer adds breath counting. Helps build focus, keeps the mind from drifting off.
Classic concentration practice.
Uh-huh. When you notice you've wandered, gently bring the focus back to the breath count.
And exercise 3. Pure observation.
You hold a small object, observe it intensely, but crucially, without the internal commentary. No naming, no judging.
Just pure perception, trying to bypass the inner voice.
That's the goal. Cut off the distracting internal dialogue, see things directly.
And the last one, unconscious consciousness with a partner.
Oh, right. That's about developing intuitive reactions, nonverbal communication in a defensive drill. One attacks, the other reacts spontaneously, without overthinking.
Training that instant, harmonious response.
Exactly. Body and mind acting as one, almost unconsciously.
This is really getting into deep levels of awareness, which leads us to Chapter 6, Extended Realities. Sounds like we're going even further out.
Yeah, this chapter talks about that elusive quality beyond physical mastery.
Like a 6th sense. Intuition.
Kind of, that feeling of just knowing something without knowing how you know it.
And this connects to consciousness levels.
Yes. Beyond the 5 senses, the book talks about a 3rd level. Cosmic consciousness.
Meaning?
The idea that everything is fundamentally connected, like we're all part of one big universal network. It's a concept found in many mystical traditions.
Ties back to that ninja mystical heritage again.
It does. The idea that everything originates from a single source, a single thought, that core interconnectedness.
And yin and yo, or yin and yang, comes up again here.
Right. As fundamental polarities, not good versus bad, but complementary forces. Understanding their balance is key in ninjutsu to getting results.
Working with the balance.
Exactly. Recognizing them in situations and learning how to interact with them.
And Tenchi Jin, Heaven Earth Man. How does that fit?
It's a framework the ninja uses to adjust their relationship with their surroundings. By understanding and subtly nudging the yin and yo balance in the environment.
They create an advantage.
Potentially, yeah. Influence the situation by working with the natural energies, not fighting them head on.
Harmonizing to gain an edge. And the personality types linked to elements. How does that help deal with people?
If you can sense someone's dominant element, say, they're very fire-driven, you might tailor your approach to match or counter that energy. It's like applied psychology through an elemental lens.
Understanding their core tendencies. And then there's Kyujitsu, Tenkan-Hon, falsehood, deception.
Core tactic, yeah.
Yeah.
Confusing the enemy by making strengths look like weaknesses or vice versa.
Strategic misdirection.
Exactly. The book mentions historical examples like using innocent deception in castle escapes. It's about manipulating perception.
Okay, final chapter. The art of understanding. Sounds like it brings everything together.
It really does. One of the highest goals, the book says, is cultivating natural knowing.
Natural knowing.
Intuitive understanding. Getting it by removing those cultural, emotional filters, the blinders that shape how we see things.
And you'll revisit it again?
Yes, emphasizing that the Western idea can be a bit simplistic. Ninja historically had a very practical, working knowledge of how these polarities interact.
Not just opposites, but a dynamic interplay.
Right, and they learned how to influence that interplay to create desired effects.
So their approach to conflict wasn't always direct.
Often not. It was about understanding and manipulating these relationships, and staying under the radar, no name and no art, reducing their own visibility.
Achieving goals without needing recognition. Quite different from the samurai.
Very. The samurai often focused on rigid yu principles, duty, honor, overt action. The ninja philosophy was more fluid, nature-based. Survival and the objective were paramount.
Okay, so they could use a wider range of tactics, including the in or less obvious ones.
Exactly. While ninjutsu has yo aspects, it incorporates those alternative in approaches. The idea is that your internal state, your understanding, shapes your external reality. It's a powerful concept.
It really is. It makes clear that ninjutsu, in this book anyway, is so much more than fighting. It's a whole system for understanding,
Right.
well, everything.
Yourself, the world, the connections between them.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Ninja Volume 1, that Spirit of the Shadow Warrior, it's not really about being invisible or superhuman, is it?
Not in the way people usually think. It seems to be more about cultivating inner strength, adaptability, a really unique perspective on reality.
Grounded in philosophy, psychology, that subtle awareness, becoming that palace inside, not a fortress.
Exactly. Understanding interconnectedness, balancing those opposing forces, using them strategically.
So a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Think about these ancient ideas, awareness, adaptability, the balance of in and yo. How could they apply to navigating, your own life today? What blinders, cultural or emotional, might you be wearing without realizing it?
Yeah, how could a deeper awareness of yourself and your surroundings help you move through the world with maybe more understanding, more effectiveness, maybe even a bit of that natural knowing?
Definitely something to mull over.